Oh, hello. Yes. Well, there are certain times, when you just want to stand there and just go, oh, yeah. Because you're just faced with, I don't know, it seems to be a large section of the British media that is run by misanthropes. The people that they just don't like anything or anybody, and it's never a coherent reasoning. You sit next to them in a car, don't you? And they get overtaken by somebody and they go, oh, look, oh, I knew it'd be a woman. It's obviously a woman, wouldn't it? Oh, it's an old bloke. I hate old blokes. Oh, it's a black. Well, obviously they can't drive properly, can they? Black. Oh, it's some young kid. Black. Learn the rules. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just everybody else is wrong and they're just miserable. And there was so much of that yesterday in in the British media, and yeah, it just makes me want to say, anyway, let's just look at some classic examples. There was this one, right? This is the most important soft power mission of the century, says the Daily Telegraph. Prince William is key. After a string of blunders by Labour's damaged ties with the White House, the Prince of Wales and the King could save the special relationships. Yeah, because it's so important, isn't it? And nothing says Brexit and British sovereignty like sending over somebody who was born into extreme wealth to go and talk to somebody who was born to extreme wealth and try and persuade them to be a bit nice to us, because that's what it's all about, eh? Yeah, I'm so glad that we've spent all this amount of time demanding sovereignty from people that weren't elected to send the King's envoy there to please, can we be nice to us, eh? Oh, it's pragmatic, they'll say. I don't care. Yeah, do you think Winston Churchill would do that? No, he would bleed and argue his corner. He didn't care who it was. There, you see, I can own that one. Yes, but then we come on to the actual commentariat, of course, yeah? And they were really on display yesterday. We get James S's, naturally, okay, who had the audacity to put this up. We wouldn't allow a pilot who doesn't understand the basics of physics. Oh, no. We wouldn't allow a pharmacist who doesn't understand the basics of chemistry. Oh, no. We shouldn't allow doctors who don't understand the basics of human biology. Yes, indeed, James. And I don't think we should allow people to just call themselves therapists when they aren't qualified. And they shouldn't be allowed to, in their own particularly smarmy, horribly homophobic, gnarly, beardy way, be in front of me and on my screen the entire time, telling me about how people need to be properly qualified, James? Yeah. Or indeed Toby Young, the man, the voice of reason, yes, saying millions of pounds of taxpayers' money end up in the coffers of left-wing think tanks every year, says Charlotte Gill. Isn't it about time we turned the tables and asked, who fund you? Well, I've never had any problem with that at all, Toby, but how about if we can actually find out who does actually fund you? How's that? Yeah? Rather than lecturing other people about it, you do seem to be suspiciously wealthy for somebody who doesn't realistically have a job. Where's the money come from? Oh, well, I think it's very important that funders, remain anonymous. Oh, does that go across the board then? No, because I have no coherent reasoned argument. I'm just going to find faults with things I don't like. Rupert Lowe, inevitably. We need a ruthless review of immigration judges. Yeah, ruthless, right? Sacking any who are found to be actively working against the interests of the British people. Like a nice definition, but never mind, and in favour of their own political desires. Oh, yes, indeed, the system should work for Britain, not Gaza. Yeah, this is the news, apparently we might have to accept some refugees in the country. It'd be awful, wouldn't it? Awful for Rupert, that. Still, I guess what we could have is have politically appointed judges. That would be a good idea. I seem to recall a great Spencer Tracy movie called Judgment at Nuremberg that was about that exact point. I can't see any problems with the idea of politically appointed judges, and I imagine that Rupert can't as well, because, let's face it, he seems to imagine that magically, if we just get the right people who will make the right decisions, we can, have the right experts in the right place. But of course, we all know that we'll end up with James S's and Rupert Lowe, or even worse, perhaps your Elon Musk's, who is insisting that, in fact, he, as an unelected person, is in a far better position in a republic to know what the law is than anyone else, because he was posting this up about JD Vance. If a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. No, it wouldn't. If a judge tried to command an attorney general how to use their discretion as a prosecutor, that is also illegal. No, it isn't. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. Yes, they are. That's the whole point of checks and balances. If you don't like democracy, I don't have a problem with that, but at least be honest about it. Yes, maybe we should send a king across to have a chat with them about the nature of democracy. And, oh my God, yes, I had to put up, briefly, so you don't, with inevitably Connor Tomlinson chatting to Julia Hartley-Brewer about how crap young people are. Yes, and you can have a look at this yourself on Talk TV. Connor manages to be enormously rude to every single young person around him because, after all, he's representative of them all, isn't he? Because he's 12 and knows things. Yeah, I mean, in particular, I like the way that he was suggesting that young women taking part in surveys have been brainwashed by social media, and young people taking part in surveys, you'll notice they're different from young women, who have a special I'm stupid space in his heart, right? Yeah, thanks for that, misanthrope and missing other things as well. Yeah. Jesus, they're sexist. Anyway, yeah, suggesting, of course, that young people have been brainwashed by teachers. Of course, that must be my fault. It's me and the judges and the left-wing think tanks are the reason why we've ended up here, isn't it? And, of course, the absolute cherry on the cake with Douglas Carswell. Douglas Carswell made a career for himself, right, suggesting that, immigration was a really bad thing because all of these economic migrants are coming to the country, and the movement of people like that shouldn't be allowed. They shouldn't just be allowed to go to a different country because they don't like where they are. So he had this in the Telegraph. Trump should offer asylum to Britons fleeing high-tax authoritarian Britain. Yeah, it would humiliate Keir Starmer. It could also save the UK. Yes, indeed, he's suggesting that people under 40 should just be allowed to go into the States. But of course, Dougie Boy doesn't actually mean that, does he? No, indeed. Because, of course, he means certain types of people, like him, because he's at the University of the Southern Confederacy or something. Yeah, one of our global elitists that can just jump around the world and suggest that, I think it's so important that people should be free to move in and around jobs. Just not certain people, eh? Yes. These people are misanthropes. They just don't like anybody that isn't them. And they all are on display. And by God, it really does make me want to say, well, to a lot of them, my God, there's not a coherent thought amongst them, is it, eh? It's just whatever drives past is wrong and makes them cross, and they want the world to be full of identical people to them because then it'll be run properly. But of course they are the people that's been running the world for the last 40 years, which is exactly why we're here, which is why, of course, we need to get rid of the judges and the teachers and the blacks and the women, and then just and only then might they be happy. No, they won't. They'll just find someone else that they don't like. Yeah. Anyway, do have a glorious day. Enjoy. Try to keep the swearing under control. It makes sense.